Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to present to you today's webinar, A Roadmap for 2017 Digital Fundraising Success. We have a fantastic program, a terrific lineup of speakers, and a lot of great content to present to you today. First up, a couple of housekeeping notes. We will be sending you the full recording along with the link to the presentation via email within the next day. If you'd like to get the current presentation sent to your phone right now, you can text roadmap, all one word, ROADMAP, to 51555. We will be taking a lot of questions. You can see on the left side of your screen, there is a chat window. So if you have questions at any time during the webinar, feel free to type those questions that you have right into the chat. And a member of our team will endeavor to answer the questions, provide you with a whole bunch of resources to get you a lot of great insight. We're excited to present this fantastic agenda today. We will be going over donor experience, how to tailor communications for your audience. Smart fundraising, how to cultivate lasting donor relationships. Video storytelling, how to promote your mission with passion. Dynamic events, how to create an exciting moment of giving. Social media engagement, how to strengthen every part of your cause. And finally, crowdfunding and peer-to-peer, how to move your organization forward. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers that I will introduce individually in just a moment, but I'd like to go over all of them for you just right now. We have Crudi Kanogia from MediaCause, who's the Director of Client Services there. We have Scott Paley, the co-founder and CEO of Abstract Edge. Michelle Whitehart, Video and Visibility Mentor at michellewhitehart.com. Angela McIntosh, who's the Director of Digital Strategy with the Salvation Army. Ritu Sharma, co-founder and CEO, Social Media for Nonprofits. And finally, Salvador Brigman, the founder of CrowdCrux. We are very excited to have all of these fantastic speakers for you today. And before we launch into the first speaker, I'd like to share a quick poll with all of you. If you could please take the poll that's on the screen. I'll give you all a moment to take a look at the answers, give us a response. We'd really appreciate it as we help design our programming for upcoming webinars in 2017. Again, we've been doing these monthly, so we look forward to seeing all of you on every one of our upcoming webinars in 2017. So please do submit your response there. Thank you all for voting. We'll give it just another couple seconds. Terrific. Thanks again, everyone. All right. First up, to us about the donor experience, how to tailor communications for your audience. Crudi Kanogia is the Director of Client Services at MediaCause, a digital marketing agency for nonprofits that builds websites, social communities, and campaigns for organizations that are changing the world. Welcome, Crudi.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here. At MediaCause, we work with so many different nonprofits, from small organizations to big international nonprofits, and it's surprising how similar the challenges are, kind of no matter who you are. The main thing that we do is we do communications and user experience modeling. So the communication strategies I'll talk to you about in a little bit, but the user experience, which is just a fancy word for how does it work, is so important because one of the biggest mistakes you can make is spending a ton of money on a campaign and then all of a sudden it's hard for somebody to kind of complete the transaction. So making it super easy for somebody to donate, text to donate is a great example, or making sure that your donation page is optimized, making sure that it's easy to share once you've made a donation. All of that is super, super important. So the way we like to do it is to start backwards. Start with what that transaction page is and then build back from there. So pick the easiest way to actually make that donation and then promote that. Make it easy to give. So a lot of times it helps to give context where it's, $10 buys a life jacket, $15 buys this much water, $20 is going to buy 3 sweaters for this family. However you can make it contextually simple for somebody to understand what it is that they're giving to is going to go so much further than leaving it open-ended. If you analyze the way people are coming into you and the exact messages they're responding to, you're going to find what we call personas within your audience. So going into the next slide here, one of our clients is called MOAS. They're the Migrant Offshore Aid Station. They were doing some great work in the Mediterranean and Aegean Seas, where they were the people that were rescuing refugees. They were saving them from drowning. It's a very crowded space. So for those of you that are coming from nonprofits where you might think, well, I'm competing against the YMCA, or I'm competing against the Boys and Girls Club, or I'm competing against these huge organizations, you can absolutely stand out and you can absolutely find your value proposition. MOAS was in the same space as the United Nations Human Rights Commission, the same people, the Save the Children was there, International Rescue Committee was there, but what we found was that the people that supported MOAS had very distinct reasons for doing so. One reason were the humanists. To them, there's a right and there's a wrong. It's wrong to let people drown. And so that's why when MOAS reached out to these people, their message was very simple. We've saved 11,000 people because it was the right thing to do. And that message really resonated with this ethos. Again, not everyone kind of feels the same way. So if I look at the next persona, an impact seeker, these people are, well, what are you doing? There's so much talk about this space, and there's so many organizations there. What more can we do? So these people really connect with operational updates. We're setting sail now. We've got this many miles to cover. We've got this many people on board. We've got this many medical staff. We have this many life jackets. If you give us $12 more, we'll have another life jacket. Things like that, the real impact was what resonated the most there. So this newsletter, when we started understanding these messaging tactics and using this messaging, we saw email open rates increase by between 30 and 50%. We saw click-throughs on email skyrocket to 27 to 32%. The most important thing that we did with this was re-engage donors. So somebody that's given to you once, you don't want to go back to the drawing board and have to find all new people. But if you continue to show impact with this impact seeker persona, they will donate to you again. And if you think about it, you're using the same amount of resources to re-engage a much more likely to donate set of people. So it's a better investment as far as just kind of a donation or a fundraising campaign goes. So one of the best ways to do this methodology-wise is to send out a survey. We really like open response surveys to kind of get direct quotes from people. So if you look here, these are people saying, you're the only people saving lives at sea, NATO is sending them back. Okay, great. So this helps us understand that inaction with politics is a frustrating factor. This leads directly to targeting strategies where we can target people that are following certain news publications online, that are using certain hashtags, that are engaging with certain content. We can target them directly using Facebook ads or Twitter targeting and get our message in front of them. The simple line, you save lives, great. that really helps us understand that all we have to say is help us save lives.
So, Crudy, sorry to interject. So, would you recommend that everyone listening essentially try and identify which of these personas or what the makeup of their potential audience is from these types of personas so that they can then sort of better target their message as you're suggesting?
Absolutely. And persona development is it's the groundwork from which you would build any kind of strategy. We do it for every client walking in the door. It doesn't matter if you're a blood bank or if you're the Red Cross. We want to understand the different motivations people have. And essentially what you're doing is when you're sitting there and trying to draft your email newsletter, I bet you're like, well, I could write about this, or I write about that, or I write about this. And there are 5 different things that I want to get across. But that's not what you want to do. What you want to say is I have 5 different people I'm talking to. So each one of them gets one story. And when you segment your communications that way, you're going to get much stronger engagement and therefore much stronger donations, much stronger kind of amplification online.
Right.
So,
and I can imagine for a lot of people listening, again, who may be in a smaller organization, it feels a little bit overwhelming, right? Like having to do all of this. So do you feel that this is sort of like an ongoing process where you're continually looking to better understand your audience and the makeup of the personas that you have? So it's not sort of do this massive project and then let it, put it to bed. It's like a constant gathering of this sort of who are your personas that are in your particular audience. Is that your take?
Exactly. You wouldn't. So it doesn't mean that all of a sudden instead of writing one email, you have to write 5 emails every time, but it does mean when a certain type of person donates to you, maybe their thank you email looks a little bit different than somebody who checked a higher age box. Or it might mean that when you are using Instagram stories or Facebook Live, that this type of story that you're telling is going to be towards a different audience. So impact speakers, for example, we wouldn't use Facebook Live just to Facebook Live for an impact speaker would be on the boat. Like, here's what we're doing. Here's what is happening. Whereas a humanist, Facebook Live might be something more like, check out this family. Here's a picture of a feed of a family reuniting they found each other. And that's the story, that's the emotional pull right there. So it just helps inform the different types of content that you can send out more than it limits. It shouldn't seem like an overwhelming amount of work. It should shape the way your funnel is. So the third persona here, just to show you kind of how different these people are, like for this third persona, Valentine's Day can be a sticky holiday where I think every nonprofit is like, geez, what are we going to do for Valentine's Day? For us, it was talking specifically to people that were emotionally invested in Moaz's mission. So we wanted to talk about love and hope in terms of family. And it did really well. When we rephrased the language this way, we saw a 26% lift in engagement. I saw a question about, well, if they won't open my emails, if they won't see my Facebook posts, if they won't retweet my tweets, what do I do? I think what you do is reshape your communications, and this is how we would do it. If you're interested in developing your personas, the first thing I would do is write a survey and try to understand who, what, where, when, why. Who are they? What resonates with them? Where are they? When do they donate? Look at your donation patterns to find those key reasons and ask open response questions for why. Why do they like you? And that's where the gold is going to be.
Fantastic insight, Kruti. Thank you so much. Next up, speaking to us about smart fundraising, how to cultivate lasting donor relationships, Scott Paley, is the co-founder and CEO of Abstract Edge, a digital marketing company that helps nonprofits, educators, and mission-driven companies grow, engage, and motivate their audiences and look good while doing it. Thanks for joining us today, Scott.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about, your work and, what smart fundraising means to you.
Sure. So I guess the real quick background here is Abstract Edge has been around for quite a while now, about 17 years, and we were responsible actually for one of the very first, maybe the first, big online grassroots movement that was ever created, which was for the Million Mile March back in the year 2000, where we were able to bring roughly 750,000 people to Washington, D.C. to march for the gun control issue. And certainly, so we were very involved in really figuring out in the earliest sense how to start doing fundraising online. But some of the lessons that we learned all the way back then absolutely still apply. And fundamentally, the biggest thing is that all of this is about creating relationships. If you think about it as transactional, you might do well in the short term, but it's very difficult to build those long-term donor relationships if you think about things in a transactional way. So, so for example, right, there are going to be two general types of donors that you're going to have. There are people who give in the moment, and there are people who you have actual relationships with. Crowdfunding is an amazing, wonderful way to get people that you have strong relationships with to empower them to go out and solicit on your behalf. I mean, certainly there are no small number of examples of organizations that are doing fantastically with crowdfunding. But it does have one downside, which is that all of these people who are donating to you don't really have a relationship with your organization. And you have to look at all of those new donors, not so much as donors, but really as leads. I think a great example of this was what ALS had to deal with last year, or a couple of years from now, I guess it was a year and a half ago, with the Ice Bucket Challenge, where all of a sudden they had hundreds of thousands, millions, whatever the number was, of new donors. But the vast majority of people didn't donate because they cared specifically about that organization or wanted to have a relationship with them necessarily. They were doing it because it was part of the game. And so they had to really figure out, and still having to figure out exactly how to start developing relationships. The way to think about it is, it's sort of like if you are a commercial company, is you all of a sudden have this really great lead database that you can then mine to start building those relationships.
So you kind of talked about some of these tips in terms of, how you're going to really mine that database. And, what do you have any recommendations on how best to do that? And I think, when we've talked, that is one area where everyone probably struggles with. And, how do you have an effective database? How do you build an effective database, right? I mean, any thoughts just around that specifically?
Well, I think it starts with a deep analysis of the audiences that you have and figuring out exactly what the ladder of engagement needs to look like. What are all the different rungs on that ladder? How do you move people from an initial relationship through to marriage? And I think one of the big mistakes that a lot of nonprofit organizations end up making, unfortunately, is in essence proposing on the first date. I think it can be very hard to ask for a donation from somebody who's not familiar with the organization. It's much, much easier to get a donation once you've actually gotten someone to take that first step with you. And so you make that first step really easy. Once that relationship is nurtured, once you've gone out on a few dates, then you can ask for a bigger commitment, like a donation or volunteering or whatever it is. So if you can get people to do simple things like sign a petition or take a poll or, give an email address in exchange for something of value, or even get them to tell their own story. Even something as simple as that is going to help drive donations. A great example of this, actually, I mentioned the Million Mile March. I'll go back to that for a second. When a few months in, and we had literally 9 months with them from the start when we first started working with them until the March, and they were not backed by any real existing organization at all, not when they started, and so they had to start from nothing, and so they were really struggling after a few months with their fundraising, and they really desperately needed money. And one of the things that we did up on the website, and obviously this is not exactly how you would implement this in 2016, but the principles remain, which is we created this thing called the Tapestry of Woven Words, and it was basically a place on the site where people who had experienced or been touched by gun violence in their own lives would have a place to tell their own stories. And some of the things that were put up there were just heart-wrenching, as you probably can imagine. With that, we also had a call to action pointing to what we call the Registry of Protected Children. And what we asked for was for people to make a small donation to protect a child. And so we asked people to put in a first name, a last initial, so there was an anonymity, and a city. And then if they would donate $5 or more, we would add them to the registry. Any amount above $5 would add their child to the registry. This was unbelievably successful. I mean, thousands of people did this. And again, remember, this is in the year 2000. This is very early. This is before, people were very comfortable and trusting even about e-commerce. There was no social media. Facebook didn't exist yet. So, but I think, again, the general principle of you get people in the door by giving them an emotional outlet that aligns with their own self-interest, what they care about. They don't care about giving your organization money, but they sure care about the stories that they wanted to tell. And once you get that foot in the door, boy, does it become a lot easier to get people to give money.
Now, how do you see, technology and, specifically mobile technology play a role in all of this, and it's just, in the evolution of giving that you've seen over these years? How do you have any recommendations on how best to utilize some of these new tools and technologies to make giving easier?
From a general standpoint, what mobile has done is basically allowed you access to everybody, everywhere, all the time. And that was never the case before. What it really does is it allows you to create and activate, a movement of people at any time. And part of that is the ability to donate. And I think that the big change that's happened really in the last few years, aside from generally the rise of mobile, is that the cost of having or being able to create a platform and being able to create a movement, and that could be a hyper-local movement that's very specific to a geographical location, or it could be a global movement. Either way, the cost of doing that has come down so much because of tools like Mobile Cause. The power of it has gone up so much because of tools like Mobile Cause. What a lot of nonprofits struggle with is thinking about these things not so much as a campaign, but about consistent relationship building, and creating that culture of testing is so important. Startup companies do this really well, but nonprofits tend not to do it so well. And a specific example of that is I noticed on your form, and this would be, certainly on your mobile forms and on your desktop forms as well, that the default amounts for the donations are similar to what most nonprofits do. I believe it was like $10, $25, $50, or something like that, or $25, $50, $100. Why those numbers? My question is why the reason that people use those numbers they're nice round numbers, and we want to give people several options at different price points. Seems clear. But nobody tests those numbers. Nobody has decided that, you know what, you may actually make more money by offering 20, 40, 80. Maybe you'll get more donations if you give lower defaults, or vice versa. Maybe you'll get the exact same number of donations if you did 30, 60, 100. You might find that if you check and you test and you actually look at the data, that the vast majority of your people are choosing the middle number if you have 3 options. That's a very typical thing that happens in sales. When you give 3 options, people very typically choose the middle one. Well, if the middle one wasn't $50, was $60 instead, and it turns out that you get the same number of donations either way, you've just increased your fundraising by 20% without spending a dime and without doing anything to change your site other than just changing these defaults. But those kind of things only happen when an organization is comfortable testing, is comfortable trying things and potentially failing, that they don't see it as failure per se, they see it as a learning experience.
Fantastic, Scott. Thank you so much for those insights. Again, everyone, if you have additional questions on anything Scott just talked about, feel free to type those questions into chat and we'll endeavor to answer as many of the questions as you have. Next up, I'd like to introduce Michelle White-Hart, who's going to speak to us about video storytelling, how to promote your mission with passion. Michelle is a video visibility mentor and coach who teaches her clients how to have success with video to up their visibility. Today, Michelle will be telling us about video storytelling and how to promote your mission with a passion. Welcome, Michelle. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here.
So tell us a little bit about, how people can do this. What are your 4 key principles?
Well, the first key principle is that making a video with a smartphone, an iPhone, or any kind of smartphone is good enough to transmit an important message. And because your message is more important than the production quality. And people, get hung up and just think, oh no, we've got to have really good equipment. And it's like, these phones are really quite good. And it's your energy and your passion and your message that is far more what people are interested in than how good it looks, all the bells and whistles. The second point is that the most compelling way to transmit is to be real and raw. These highly rehearsed and planned videos have a place for, higher professional videos, but in your roster of videos, it's good to have a variety, and a lot of them coming from just emotion and passion and your connection to your cause. And so anyone in your organization is probably very connected to the cause and will have something emotional to transmit, and that's what people respond to. The third point is that these so-called handmade videos, as I like to call them, often outperform the high-end productions that I've seen a lot of the big coaches share, that the videos that they've just sort of made spontaneously to share something personally have often garnered the most views for all their videos. And so it's important to see how powerful these seemingly unprofessional videos are doing what they're supposed to do without having all the bells and whistles. And those videos, the bells and whistles videos, are important for other reasons and are necessary for the image of the organization. But these, handmade videos are just as important. And because smartphones now, anyone can be a videographer, and that's really important to get, that you do not have to have any training to do this. It's kind of weird, having been in the film industry and worked on these these big expensive editing machines and with all these cameras, and now anyone can do it. Like, I'm just as good as anyone else. We all can do this, and it's a new life skill basically to start to play and use video. Doesn't matter how steady it is, it will be usable because it'll look decent.
Terrific. And now for those listening, like, what are your thoughts on sort of getting started? How should they, where should they start?
Well, there's, the easiest way to start is to start just having, letting anyone in the organization know that filming any of your events or meetings or trips or anything, just shooting the footage, with it sideways and gathering a library of footage is great to have when you have a better, clear idea of how you're going to need to show the work that you do. So just starting to shoot and not worrying about talking or interviewing anyone is the easiest way to start. And it's really important to keep your donors interested in what you're doing and to communicate often by sharing these little snippets. Once you start getting comfortable about saying, oh, I'm shooting this elephant, let me share how exciting it was to film this elephant and give a little story. You start getting comfortable sharing about what you're shooting and knowing that your donors don't know all the stuff you know and will be interested in seeing this behind the scenes, off the cuff kind of footage. It's exciting. And then the third thing is to always have in mind that if you are thanking your donors in these videos, they're going to feel really reached. And it's like you're shooting this video to thank them by showing them something that your organization was able to accomplish because of their money. So it's a way to just use video in a way that directly makes them feel like, oh my gosh, I helped create this. And posting your videos separately to YouTube and Facebook is a really good start, and Vimeo. I think people aren't aware that Facebook is very video friendly, but if you use a YouTube link, they won't promote it as much as if you directly upload the video to Facebook. And so you want to be uploading your videos both to YouTube, to Vimeo, and to Facebook. I'm throwing in the Vimeo piece right now. Because you want this video to get favored, either by YouTube or Facebook, and get more visibility. And to just, share and then cross-promote by sending the videos through email, through text messaging, anytime you've grabbed something and you want to share it. And then the final piece is to always put a call to action at the end of these videos. And that just makes every video work for your organization because you're actually giving the donors or these new potential donors the next step, what you'd like them to do next. If you want them to go to the website or to make a donation, you have the option of what call to action it is, but it just makes the video really effective.
Real quick, just on that last point, do you have any thoughts on sort of the best practice for a call to action? Is it something that should be text-based? Is it something that should be a direct ask of, say the person in the video? Any thoughts around what you've seen really works in terms of a call to action in a video?
It really, truly depends on what your intention for the video was. If you're specifically talking to donors who have already, made contributions, then because I don't work at a nonprofit, I don't think you'd want to say, make a donation, or you might, and say, we'd love another, you can be really, really specific to who the audience you've meant the video for. Now, if you're making the video for YouTube and to share, just look at what we do, then you can say, definitely make a donation. But I think what works is to also vary the calls to action so that people have different things that they can do to get involved. Like if you want people to get involved, tell them to get involved at such and such because an upcoming event is coming up. Do you know what I mean? Is that clear?
Yes, that's terrific.
Okay, good.
And, I guess the final question is there anything that, in all your sort of ability to connect with people through video and make it easy and approachable, what's the is there one sort of underlying, learning that you've had that really allows people to create video that emotionally connect with the viewers?
Right. Great question. This is so, so important. And honestly, the way the most important way to do that is because there may be some nervousness and some head tripping inside where you're like, oh my God, are people going to think this is any good? Or they're trying to think of the right thing to say. The most important thing is to just connect to why you're making the video is because you are so passionate about your cause. So really connect to like, wow, I'm part of this cause that helps so many people. And when you connect emotionally to why you work at the nonprofit or why you're making the video, you're going to get more connected to your passion. And that's what counts the most is your passion. And it doesn't matter how you say what you say, how polished you are, how good you are at being on video. It's like if you're connecting to your true passion and to why you're interested in filming what you're filming in this moment, that's going to come through. And that's nonverbal. It's like communication is 70% nonverbal. So it's not about what you say and how you look in these kinds of videos. It's really about sharing your energy.
Wonderful. Great point. Now, what do you think about Facebook Live? What's your approach to Facebook and live video?
Yeah. Well, Facebook Live is awesome for getting started also because, it's meant to look kind of haphazard and casual, so the pressure is off and it's in the moment and you just go with the flow and you're interacting with people usually who have logged in, who are communicating to you by text on the screen. So you immediately have somebody there listening and asking questions that you respond and relate to. And that just makes it a lot easier for some people. Some people are freaked out by the live stream thing because it's like, oh my God, I'm already, on stage, but a lot of other people go, wow, I'm just going to go for it and interact with people and share my few tips. And that's really inspiring for a lot of people because then it's done and you can edit it later if you want to, but it's done and Facebook is promoting it all over the place. So that's sort of my inspiration around it. And it's as simple as opening the Facebook app on your smartphone. And when you go to your personal page, you just select the news feed and click the status button. And then there's a live video option. And it will automatically display on your wall. And so all of your followers will get a notification and they can jump on and interact with you right then and there. And meanwhile, if you make the video public, then the whole public can get wind of it. And so you're really reaching a lot of people this way instantly. Whereas you're not always guaranteed viewers on YouTube. You know what I mean? It's like you've got a built-in audience that's live that on Facebook.
Fantastic, Michelle. Thank you so much for those insights. I know that this is going to help everyone listening become a video storytelling superstar. Next up, I'd like to introduce Angela McIntosh, who's going to speak to us about dynamic events, how to create an exciting moment of giving. Angela is the Director of Digital Strategy at the Salvation Army, where she works to develop, strengthen, and coordinate best practice online fundraising and integrated marketing initiatives to leverage awareness and financial support for the work of the Salvation Army. Welcome, Angela. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Chris. So here's some timeless event fundraising truths. The heart of fundraising really never changes. That's completely true. The most important thing about launching your event, as I'm sure most of you know already, is your invitation list. Getting your attendee list to your event to be diverse and varied, to have a nice mix of people who have never heard of you before and people who are longtime friends. People that are on different levels at the wealth ladder are also really important. Filling the room is really the most basic fundamental step. So we've seen people be really successful by, having people from their boards. And certainly here at the Salvation Army, we rely heavily on our advisory boards to recruit for our events. We have corporate tables. We have table captains where a board member will be responsible to invite 10 or 15 people, depending on what the seating arrangement is like. And getting them in the room is sort of 80% of the heavy lifting, right? Getting the right folks there. The second big piece is captivating the audience with storytelling. And this has kind of been a buzzword over the last couple of years. It's a little bit annoying. Every conference you go to is like all about storytelling and, all about how that works and being compelling. And if you tell the story right, then when you make the ask won't be hard. If you're making your ask in a live event setting and it's challenging to ask for the money at the end of your story, then the story wasn't really all the way flushed out. It's probably the truth there. So what we found is that there is a really very precise sort of best practice as to how you lay out the timing of your event, from when the dinner plates go down to when the video plays, how early the act happens in the evening, not surprising people at the end of the night, creating a moment of celebration. All of these pieces are really sort of important pieces of your live event. You bring people into the dinner, you let them have salad, you let them have a chance to talk, and you open immediately with the most captivating thing that you can, right? If you have a video, you play the video, and then you set up your ask right away. Once the story is told, and you make the ask, that's when the Mobile Cause on-screen product really catalyzes the audience. It changes the decision-making from being an individual decision to being a community giving opportunity. And I think that's what's really special about what you're going to see. So captivating the audience with storytelling is really important, and putting that storytelling right at the front of the night so that nobody is surprised is also really important. The other thing is that you want to always empower people to make a difference. You always want to tell people, when you participate tonight, this is the outcome that's going to happen as a result. And in that way, you give people the opportunity to drive the societal change that they want to see. And then, of course, you want to keep supporters connected to what's happening. How does it relate to them? How are you going to communicate with them in the future? Because it's not just the ask, right? You want them to come back next year to your event. And so the idea is that you keep in communication with them throughout the year. So here's 8 essential tips to ensure that you reach your goal. Mobile technology has fundamentally changed the way we connect and give. That's completely true. Not just SMS, but mobile email. 60% of email, I'm told, is opened on a mobile device first now. It's a drastic shift in the way that people consume the content you send them. So you want to be sure that everything you do is responsive. Your donation pages, your event landing page, your emails that you send to the event. Social media, you're off the hook because Facebook and Twitter are going to make it mobile for you, which is great. But text message is also really, really nice for your high-end CEO folks that just want to get a bite-sized piece of information. So you want to make it convenient for people to RSVP. A really simple sign-up system and ticketing system is ideal. And you want to make sure that your RSVP landing page is optimized for conversion. The second thing you want to do is make sure that if people can't be there, that they can make donations in lieu of attendance. You want to send mobile alerts before, during, and after events. So in the registration, include mobile number as an option so that you can lead up with a text message maybe 3 days out. Hey, we're really excited to see you at this event. In Los Angeles, we do so many of these in a year, but Los Angeles is known for being flaky on attendance. And so for us, sending something 3 days out and the day of is really, really helpful in retaining people coming to the event, especially if they're a new donor that you're trying to draw in, or if they're coming in on somebody else's relationship. It's really nice to be able to have that very personal touch point. And then you want to empower ambassadors with crowdfunding. So what we do in our Red Kettle kickoff luncheons is each table actually has a virtual Red Kettle that runs on Mobile Cause's crowdfunding platform. So the table captains are responsible to raise a certain amount of money, and they actually compete against each other to raise that amount of money. And then on the day of the event, how much has been raised leading up to the event is actually shown on the screen in that live event environment. So each table captain is being credited for the amount of money that they raised even outside the dinner. And the dinner is actually positioned as a sort of celebration of the raise. Use video to invite, remind, and thank participants. Absolutely. Video is much more compelling, especially in Facebook and in Instagram where you have autoplay. You want to really keep in mind that sound is less important because people are going to see the visual animate first before they click to the sound and or if they click to the sound. At the Salvation Army this year, we took a big, bold stand in our video marketing over Christmas, and we cut our spots. 2 years ago, they were 60-second spots. Last year, they were 30-second spots. This year, they were 15, and that boosted our video completion rate to like 96%. So almost 100% of people made it to the end of the video, which is fantastic because the call to action always happens at the end in video. So that means more people got the opportunity to give, which is great. Make a live giving demonstration. Never passively ask for donations. Recognizing donations in real time until the goal is reached is an extension of that. It allows people to see, like, okay, we see people give more than once, or they make the decision about what they're going to give and they give just a little bit more because you're trying to reach that goal and they understand where we're getting all together. And it really is a catalyzing event. It's sort of a gasp moment, which is fantastic. So they also get to see their name on the screen, which for vanity's sake, you'd be surprised, how important that is to people, especially if you add a layer of competition. And it's just a lot of energy in the room. It's really exciting, and it makes the fundraising less. Nobody's hemming and hawing. Nobody's shuffling their feet and saying, "Oh, we hope that you give us money." It makes the raising part of the night not a chore anymore. It makes it the main focus, and it makes it something that everybody contribute to. And the final thing is provide multiple ways for people to donate: check, cash, smartphone, swiper. That's absolutely true. And I recommend rolling in all of those components into that thermometer screen throughout the evening so that people can see, regardless of how they give. Even with silent auction, we've gone through and done, put in the silent auction totals and the winners into the thermometer. And it's been just a really an awesome thing for us. I'm sorry I'm heavy on the thermometer talk today, but it really is, for me, the central piece of what drives incremental revenue at a live event.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Angela. It's really, really inspiring, I think, and I think very insightful about how people can create a very exciting moment of giving. Now, I'd love to introduce our next speaker, Ritu Sharma, who's going to speak to us about social media engagement, how to strengthen every part of your cause. Ritu is the co-founder and CEO of Social Media for Nonprofits, an organization that provides social media training to help nonprofits leverage social media for cause awareness, engagement with stakeholders, fundraising, and advocacy. Thanks for joining us today, Ritu.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to join all of you and share some thoughts with you. First and foremost, think of a long-term strategy. Always think about how do you bring people in. Second, think about a strategy that builds on your fundraising strategy, marketing, and advocacy efforts. It's not something that is a standalone that you do separately. It is something that infuses everything that you do, whether it's fundraising, it's advocacy, it's engagement, it's donor retention. So think about how can you infuse social in every aspect of your work. Next thing I'd say is have a very clear vision of what you wish to accomplish via social media, how it maps to your actual goals. And by actual goals, it's not just the amount of dollars raised, but look at how does social media marketing strategy or social fundraising strategy maps to the goals of the organization that you're trying to accomplish, whether it is eliminating hunger, whether it is eliminating poverty, whether it is support for victims of rape or other issues. Think about how can you use this if you do that versus a transactional goal of having a certain number of speakers, having a certain number of people that follow you, certain number of likes and comments. Those are transactional goals. I would say every goal should map overall to how does it help us reach our mission. And the other thing I would say, as you design your strategies, one of the other things I recommend is that you involve every department. It's not just your fundraising department. It's not just your development department or communications. It's really, I would say, involve every department that you can, executive, especially your program department. It's very important to involve everyone. I would say the final part, and as you are thinking about designing a strategy, is to invest in a consultant to help you build a very thoughtful strategy. Sometimes we think activity and just being busy is equal to progress. It's actually not. When you invest in a quality consultant that can help you, if you don't have the wherewithal and the means internally, if you can invest in a consultant, they can help you, first and foremost, take an inventory of the resources you have, create achievable goals for you, and then also create tactics for you, and then things that you can build on. So quality infrastructure that you can build on and maintain as you go. Because a lot of people that I know in 70 conferences that I have organized in the last 5 years, just think having a very busy social media page, regardless of the channel you go, leads to funding, leads to advocacy, or leads to reaching their mission. That's actually not true. So those are the key considerations. In execution, I would say identify the most compelling stories in your organization. Look at what really speaks to how you're changing their lives. People are never motivated by a plan or a strategy. It doesn't matter how beautiful that is. People are always motivated, and that is your donors, that is your community. They're always motivated by the compelling change that you make, the promise that you make in what you're going to change in the world. So identify the most compelling stories in your organization. Build a content calendar with images, quotes, blogs, and more. And that is something you have to do at least 3 to 5 months in advance. At least 3 to 5 months in advance. If you think that just a month before the event that you're able to do this, it doesn't actually work. You want to do at least 6 to 9, because what you start to do is you start to build a community in advance. You start to bring people in. You start to engage with them. So when it is time to ask for funding, it's not just we followed you, we connected with you, and here's how you give us money. So that's why you need 6 to 9 months to make sure, depending on an organization, if it is an organization that is advanced as an engaged community, you go for 3 months in advance. If you are a small nonprofit and you don't have a strong community, if you only have 100 followers on Facebook, if you have only 200 people on Twitter, that is literally the size of your reach. And if you're looking to raise $20,000, you really need to have a bigger microphone and bigger community that you can reach out to. Even the most beautiful message will not go anywhere if you have a very small community. I would say send and inform your supporters, and your supporters are your volunteers, your board members, your engaged community members. Support them in supporting you very extensively. And what that looks like is preparing marketing kits, preparing fundraising kits, and giving them the emails, at least a template, giving them pre-written tweets, giving them photographs from your work. Prepare them as much as you can, so they can support you. One of the things that I see quite a bit is that people go out and ask board members and volunteers to support the fundraising campaign, but they don't provide quality materials. And even with the nicest intentions, a lot of people don't have resources or time. As you can see from your life, every one of us, especially in the nonprofit sector, is wearing multiple hats, being on the board, volunteering. So if you can provide them quality materials, that one little thing really changes the game quite a bit. If you can provide them, do follow-up, support them, that increases. It's fundraising, and social fundraising is really a form of peer-to-peer art. And in order for you to be able to do that, you really need to support your chief campaigners and advocates and people who are engaged in community. As you launch a campaign, and as you start to see some funds come through on your online campaign, make sure to have plan in place and materials in place for yourself and your campaigners to provide thank yous, to really recognize people on social channels. Everybody likes to be recognized as a philanthropist, no matter how small or how large the gift. Do the same for everyone and invite and encourage, because this is a great opportunity for you to recognize people who supported your organization and the cause, more importantly. Finally, make sure to take notes on an ongoing basis. You have some hard data that you're going to get in terms of analytics, and if you have either internal bandwidth or you have a consultant supporting you, you're going to get quality metrics out of this effort. But besides that, have a running wiki document where, as people who are part of your campaign, make sure to take notes, make sure to write things down as they happen that worked really well, and as they happen that didn't quite work well, so you can improve. Because a month or two after the campaign is over, people often forget and move on. So in this particular case, I would say these are some of the simple things that you can do that will position you for greater success in your fundraising campaign. And start small and manage your expectations. But this is a great way for you to increase the size of community and bring people into your funnel.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Ritu. It was amazing insight. I wish we had, hours more to hear more. And again, everyone, if you have additional questions for any of our speakers, please do feel free to type into the chat. We've got a team answering questions and providing links to resources. So next up, I'd like to introduce Salvador Brigman, who's going to speak to us about crowdfunding and peer-to-peer, how to move your organization forward. Salvador is the founder of CrowdCrux, a blog that helps individuals run successful crowdfunding campaigns. He helps people reach their fundraising goals by leveraging the crowdfunding community. And today, he'll be discussing exactly how you can do that for your organization. Welcome, Salvador.
Hey, everyone. It's great to be on this webinar. The first thing I want to say is that there is a very big difference between a crowdfunding campaign and peer-to-peer fundraising. And I'm going to break down the differences here. So let's first talk peer-to-peer fundraising. Peer-to-peer fundraising, you might have heard of this from Relay for Life. With a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign, you're going to have an overall arching cause, maybe to raise money for cancer. And your core donors, the core donors on your email list, the core donors that you've been working to attract in the last several months, they're going to be raising funds from their social network, from their friends, from their family, from their local community. They're really doing all of the work on your behalf to move that overall fundraising meter. And the reason that I make that distinction is because the time spent in the preparation stages preparing for the launch of this online crowdfunding campaign is different from peer-to-peer fundraising to crowdfunding. So with peer-to-peer fundraising, your entire focus is going to be on educating those core donors, not just educating about your story, but really about ways to go out there, to talk with their friends, to share this story with their family, and templates to share this message on social media, how to really solicit donations from their local community, maybe templates to put up some kind of a banner somewhere. You're giving them the tools and resources and support that they need to solicit donations from their crowd. And that's why I make that distinction, because so much of your time is going to be putting into educating, hand-holding your donors. And really, you should be obviously having meetings leading up to the launch with this core group of donors, answering questions, so that when they go out into the field, they don't run around like chickens with no heads. They're not lost. They really know exactly what to say. They know exactly how to approach the fundraising process. With crowdfunding is a bit different. And the reason here is that your focus is going to be on marketing. Your focus is not on educating as much. Your focus is on getting the word out to your donors, your existing donor base, and also people that might be interested outside of your donor base. Soliciting strangers on Facebook. These are people online that can connect with who you are, what you do, what your mission is, and decide to give money and support your crowdfunding campaign. And that campaign could be for a cause, it could be for a very specific project, but ultimately it should be in some way moving forward your organization's mission. And we think a lot about strangers online. All these people here on this webinar, we like to think of them as numbers, as visitors, as statistics, but really they are human beings. And human beings don't connect as much with information as they connect with stories. So the way that you're going to be, one, sort of a two-step process. One, you have to get people's attention. Two, you have to make them care about what it is you're doing. And you're going to be creating a library of assets to make people care. That's going to be your overall campaign text, the copywriting on that campaign page, the images that you're using to elicit emotion, to have people connect with your organization, a pitch video. The video is going to be used to really engender a sense of empathy so that people understand, connect, and realize the problem that you're trying to solve. And also, we all know that videos do have much more of a tendency to go viral than text. You're going to be using all of these assets to create an emotional connection with those strangers or those website visitors and really befriending them. You're letting them into your world. You're first showing them, obviously, why it is that you care so much, why it is you're so passionate about this initiative, but then you're giving them the chance to really connect with those people that you're helping. We don't connect with abstract things like, let's give money to Africa, let's give money to a poor nation. We don't connect with that. We connect with other people. The stories of that little girl in Africa who, with this money, is now going to be able to go to her school, which is 3 miles away, and get a better education. That's what we connect with. So this is going to be at the forefront of your marketing for your crowdfunding campaign. And I'm also going to talk about a few more things that you can do to really get someone's attention and then get them to care about your campaign.
In terms of like assets, I mean, obviously, you're going to want to create assets for both crowdfunding as well as peer-to-peer. But, tell us the difference. Like in one case, the crowdfunding assets are going to be used for marketing directly to your donor base and new donors. And, assets for peer-to-peer are really going to be used to provide those that are going to be using those assets. Is that right? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think the way you could think about this is even motivating your employees. And it's your job as a business owner running a nonprofit to motivate and get your employees excited about doing a particular job. So that you're going to be making two sets of assets for the peer-to-peer fundraising. First, you're going to be getting people excited about doing this work on your behalf, about the cause, about actually introducing this to their local or social network. The second is the actual assets that they can use. So maybe a cover photo for their Facebook page, copywriting or good text that they can use when they're sharing or posting a status update on Facebook. I think these kinds of assets really help people so that when they come to their Facebook, they're like, well, I don't really know what to say. If you have those kind of assets made for them, it's going to make it a lot easier for them to do the work on your behalf. And you can get really creative. It could be quotes for Instagram. It could be images that they can post on their Pinterest page. You really have to think of what social networks do your donors use and what social networks do their friends use to really answer that question, I think, more.
Right. And so would you say then it's really, when you're thinking about assets, it's sort of a two-step process in the sense of, one, what are all the channels, like you said, social networks and other vehicles that you're going to use, even if it's printed material that you're going to give to people, right? What are all of those various assets that you're going to need? And then it's about like really the story, the message that you're going to be delivering on those assets. Some of them are meant to, like you said, excite your peers into participating in the crowdfunding campaign and asking everyone else. And then secondly, get actual donors to be involved in your cause, right? And so maybe we can talk a little bit about, like you have some great insight on the psychological motivators that are the best way to inspire us. So maybe talk a little bit about these that are on the slide here.
Yeah, I'd love to. And the first thing I'd like to preface here is that the reason I'm sharing some of these motivators is because they can really don't use them for nefarious purposes. We look at some of these motivators, and in some ways they're kind of like Jedi mind tricks. So you should only be using these if you have a really worthy cause. But the first thing, and I think a lot of people don't think about this, is social pressure or social proof. And what is social proof? So social proof is you look into the window of a restaurant, there's no one there, you're not going to check out the restaurant because no one's there. There must be something weird about it, the food must not be good, or it just doesn't look like any fun. The same thing happens when you come to a crowdfunding campaign. If there are 0 donors, there is 0 activity, you are far less likely to give money to that campaign or that organization if no one else is giving money. And the reason there is you're actually going to come up with some kind of idea in your head. Maybe this isn't really a worthy cause. Why would I spend 5 minutes watching the video? Or maybe there's something that I haven't seen that's really weird about this campaign. Why is no one else giving money? And you click off. But if there are a bunch of people that have talked about this campaign, that have given money, maybe 1 or 2 of your friends have given money, you're going to look at that social signal and be like, hey, look, my friend just gave money to this organization. What's this ALS thing? Or, hey, my friend just gave money and they really like this video. I'm going to take a second to watch it. When there's some kind of social proof, it makes you more coerced or more likely to check out that campaign. The first part, attention, and then obviously you have to have a great campaign and great assets to make that person care about whatever it is you're trying to get them to care about. But the other thing is, if we do have an identity, let's just say we care about saving the whales, and our friends also care about that, and we see that our friends who care about the same thing we do have given money to this specific charity, this specific crowdfunding campaign, we're more likely to check it out and go and do that. And the reason is because if we do feel, we do care about saving the whales, why would we not? It's sort of a little bit of social pressure, but it's the socially acceptable thing to do in that situation. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I think millennials, myself included, we really want to see impact for our dollars. We want to see the actual return on investment or results from giving money to a campaign. And that's why crowdfunding is so powerful, because it is for a specific project, because there are updates. You can get notifications about how this money is in some way moving this cause forward. So I think that one of the major reasons why people decide to give online is because the impact is more traceable than giving to this broad fund. It could even be for a good cause like cancer, but giving to this broad fund doesn't elicit that, it doesn't elicit that same emotion like, hey, like I'm really excited. I feel like a good person for doing this. The person is obviously grateful who started this organization or campaign. I feel good about myself. But if we're just giving to an abstract cause, we don't have that same emotional, positive, warm feeling. So underscoring what this campaign is going to do or what this money, what this donation does, I think is really going to help more people want to give to your campaign. We already talked about storytelling and how that creates empathy. The other thing I'd like to say is scarcity. And most campaigns that are launched online have a specific start and end date. And by that, you mean there's a fundraising duration. Let's just say it's 30 days. It could be 45 days. But there's a specific amount of time that people have to give money or have the chance to give money to impact this cause. And the reason that that's important is because I don't know about you, but I have lots of messages in my social media feed. I have lots of things on my to-do list. I'm a busy young professional. the priority list for me, giving money to this campaign is probably going to be number 10 or number 11. But when there's that time component, it really creates a sense of urgency. Really, I can only think about this for a few days. I only have a limited amount of time to be able to give money, get my donation in, and it goes from priority number 11 up to priority number 3. So it's more likely that that person is going to actually take action. And the last thing I'll say here is there have been studies out there that if you want someone to do something really big, like giving to a campaign they've never heard of, giving to an organization they've never heard of, it's really easy if you get them to do something small first. That small thing could be liking a video. It could be following you on Facebook. It could be subscribing to your email list. There's been a study that if you want to make some kind of change, let's just say we want to have people be safer drivers, and you go to someone and you ask, can you put this sticker in your window just that, underscores that you support safe driving? Of course I would, yeah. I mean, obviously I support safe driving. But if you then came back to that person and asked a larger request, let's just say putting some kind of a poster or putting something on their lawn, which is a bit of a larger request, you're modifying your lawn to your house, that person is more likely to say yes if they first complied with the small request. And the reason there is they then now think of themselves as supporting safe driving. And we like to be consistent with the things we care about or how we think about ourselves. And if we were to say no, it's like, well, do I really not care about safe driving? It looks bad on you that you aren't firm in your convictions. You look wishy-washy. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance is the word in psych. So by having your donors or these strangers online making some kind of a small action before asking this big thing to support your campaign, they're more likely to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Salvador. These are amazing insights. I expect everyone to become a crowdfunding expert now. Again, everyone, if you do have additional questions, please do type them into chat, and we will get to as many of them as we can. Next up, I'd like to introduce our very own Jeremy Koenig, who is going to talk to us about Mobile Cause and your organization and why signing up in 2017 is a no-brainer. Jeremy is the creative director and product designer at Mobile Cause, the end-to-end fundraising and communication platform designed to help nonprofits reach a new generation of donors. Thanks for joining us today. Jeremy, welcome.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to everyone who has joined us today for our last webinar of 2016. Our hope, as always, that you could take one or two truths and apply them to your fundraising strategy, because we believe they have the potential to fundamentally transform your ability to go and do good in the world and fulfill your mission. After thinking through all the webinars we've had this year and all the incredible lessons that we've learned, I have done my best to bottle up the three most important no-brainers for why I believe you should sign up for Mobile Cause now so that you can strengthen all of your campaigns for 2017. The first reason is that by signing up for a Mobile Cause account, you will increase all types of online donations and participation for every campaign. Whether you are asking people to make a donation, set up a recurring gift, volunteer, register for an event, take a survey, sign a petition, etc., what you're doing by signing up, by using Mobile Cause forms, is you're making it as easy as possible for anyone, any age, on any device to securely go online and submit their information to your cause. Donation information is submitted in real time. Donor information is submitted in real time, and those monies go directly into your organization's bank account. With your Mobile Cause account, you can create all types of payment and non-payment forms, and each of these forms can have video as well as has a corresponding keyword, which is a text-to functionality, and a web link that you can link to on your website, as well as traditional fundraising campaigns such as direct mail. The second major no-brainer for why your organization should sign up for a Mobile Cause account today is so that you can strengthen digital, live event, and traditional campaigns with keywords and text messaging. You may or may not know it, but your nonprofit can actually upload all the phone numbers that you have and validate which ones of those are mobile and begin to send an entirely new channel of communication. So, for example, if you are sending out a direct mail blast, if you're sending out an email blast, if you have a social media strategy, each one of these channels has been proven to increase conversion rates by sending corresponding text messages, simply for the reason that text messages are real time and they have a 98% open rate, 90% of which are read within 3 minutes. Incredible. We have been talking about text messaging here at Mobile Cause for the last 6 years, and text messaging continues to be the one channel of communication that is at the forefront of our world, because by sending a text message to someone, you automatically enter that lock screen area on their smartphone that they can't ignore. Similarly, when you promote text-to options, so people could be texting to donate or texting to subscribe or texting to get alerts or texting to sign up for an event, etc., every time someone texts one of your keywords, and again, every form in your Mobile Cause account has a keyword corresponding to it, those people are automatically subscribed to receive ongoing text from your organization. The third reason why signing up for a Mobile Cause account is a no-brainer is because what you're going to do is you're actually going to strengthen donor relationships with automated follow-up and real-time communications. It's 2017. If somebody donates to your organization, their name and donation amount should show up somewhere that you can see it, whether you be at a live event or at your office or at a digital event. And you should be able to shout out their name. You should be able to post on their social media. You should be able to send them a personal thank you. The Mobile Cause fundraising thermometer makes this incredibly easy. People make a donation, their name and donation amount automatically appear as the totals rise to the goal. We've seen applications of this all across the spectrum of fundraising, from live events to television, radio, to purely digital and Facebook Live campaigns. It is an incredibly powerful tool to recognize donors in real time. It creates excitement, and it gets people to give more and to be excited about giving again. Another way that you're going to strengthen donor relationships is by embedding a personal thank you message video on your confirmation screen. So when somebody makes a donation, they actually they see a video from you. If they're on a PC, that video will automatically play, which essentially thanks them for their donation. And then our best practice is actually to include your social media links as well on that thank you confirmation screen, as well as your thank you email, and encourage people to follow you on social media to see the good that your gift is going to accomplish. Lastly, now you're able to send automatic tax receipts. This is a huge time saver, overhead saver for all nonprofit organizations, that you could send a customized tax receipt with your branding, with your social links, et cetera, that gets sent instantaneously via text message as well as via email, so that people know that their donation was received by the organization safely and securely, and they can access their tax receipt when they need it. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to my 3 top reasons why you should sign up for a Mobile Cause account this year. I absolutely believe with the bottom of my heart it's a no-brainer, and my desire would be that everyone on this call and everyone that hears this webinar would seriously consider getting a free consultation from a Mobile Cause representative. What do you have to lose? And sign up for a Mobile Cause account to strengthen your campaign and your cause moving forward. Thank you, and I'm going to turn it back over to Chris.
Thanks, Jeremy. And thanks again to our fantastic lineup of speakers today, and to all of you for joining us. We are super excited for an amazing 2017, and we'd encourage all of you, again, to connect with Mobile Cause, leverage our resources, request a free consultation. So do please connect with us. Again, Mobile Cause provides end-to-end mobile and online fundraising software for a complete new generation of donors. You can speak to us by calling 888-661-8804, or go to mobilecause.com/free-consultation. Again, that's mobilecause.com/free-consultation. I want to wish all of you a fantastic holiday season and a wonderful new year. We're looking forward to another year of fantastic webinars, so please do look out for the next invite, and we look forward to seeing all of you at every one of our webinars next year. Thanks again for attending. Have a great holiday season.